welcome to the Itinerary. Earlier this month, we here at Go With Tourism launched a fully refreshed campaign based on tourism heroes. In summary, every month we plan on telling the story of an amazing person from our industry and why people who choose to be part of tourism do, even though their talents could take them in another direction. In honour of this campaign, we thought it would be a fantastic idea to bring together everyday folk who make up the cogs and wheels of our industry to discuss what working in tourism is like. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the tourism heroes who make up our panel today. Amanda Linklater, Guide and Operations Support Coordinator for Active Adventures, Jason McKay Williams, Sales and Marketing Manager at iFly Queenstown, and Queenie Apineru, Customer Success Manager for Parkable, which, don't forget, transport is an important sector of tourism. We consider you all to be tourism heroes in our eyes, but who have you worked with or know of that you consider to be your tourism hero? What can you tell us about this person? Jason, let's go to you first.
Oh, awesome. You know what? Probably Matt Wong. I think he's fantastic. And I say that for two reasons, not just because he's my boss, but because of his actions throughout the last sort of 18 months from when we first went into lockdown through to the development and the empowerment that he's, opportunities that he's given us and the team, through to him becoming a new owner of iFly and just his never ceasing passion. Yeah, he's a legend.
I agree. Matt Wong is a fantastic person. Queenie, what about you?
I don't think I have a specific one person that I used to look up to or look up to in tourism. I've worked with so many good people, naming some like yourself, Matt, Stefan Panoho. I don't know if you know him. I just really like the way you action things and, just get projects over the line and just get things done. So I've learned a lot from you guys and, in New Zealand, for my recent roles, people like Jennifer and Ruben Livermore in the regional area in New Zealand. But I mean, short answer is so many people, because I've gone through so many roles. So I've learned so many things from different people, different things to learn from them.
Yeah, and look, your career pathway has been a really interesting one because you just swapped and changed, but we'll get back to that shortly. But Amanda, what about you?
Yeah, I'm probably the same. I have had a lot of very influential people in my career, which have led me to where I am today. Wendy, my current CEO, is definitely one of those people that's up there in my books because she leads with sincere, genuine, hearted decisions, which is really good. And I think that anyone who has been a hero in my eyes is someone who's empowered me to empower others. So yeah, lots of people that come to mind. Lynn McVicker was a big one. Amber Margrain when I first started out in hotels, and Wendy today.
I love that. Empowered me to empower others. That's me as well. Mine was actually Rob Fife when I went to Air New Zealand.
Nice.
And I found that he was an absolutely incredible person who led from the heart and really, really built an amazing culture around Air New Zealand at that time. Look, going into the next question, if I may, what brought you into the tourism industry, Jason? What called you in?
For me, it was actually a shift from Dunedin to Central Otago. So I spent 11 years living in Dunedin. My partner actually applied for a job up in Central, and so I thought, hey, you know what, I'll make a shift. My background's always been in advertising and marketing and sales, and so it sort of just led me down this pathway. I'd had an earlier sort of stint working for an OTA, running Treat Me back in the day when it was still in New Zealand, but I'd never really thought tourism as my career option until I sort of moved to Central and thought, hey, this is actually pretty cool.
Isn't that strange? So you've basically taken something that wasn't actually meant to be in tourism, and now it is in tourism, and that's what makes up who you are today, which is pretty cool, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the cool thing is, which I found is just the transferable skill. Like when I interviewed for this role, I said one of my biggest weaknesses that I believe is I have no experience in tourism, and I'm in Queenstown, which is the tourism capital, right? And I was like, I don't know the Queenstown landscape. Thankfully, I had all the transferable skills and background, and Matt was like, I can teach you tourism. I can't teach you everything that you know, and so it was a really easy shift, which has been awesome.
I think that's the thing. Sometimes people don't realize what goes hand in glove in tourism and hospitality. Amanda, what brought you into our amazing industry?
A couple of things come to mind when this question was asked. And the first one was at school, I was always a little bit rebellious. And I had a careers advisor who was very, I would call old school, loved her to bits, but she was very much, no, don't do that. Go into a real job. But I wanted a job that was fun and with awesome people, and you get to travel the world and you get to do things as well as doing what they call, a real job. And I think the career pathways were so vast. You could go and you could be an accountant and work in tourism. You could be an engineer and work in tourism. You could be a chef. You could be anything. So it was like, yep, that's where I want to go. Initially wanted to be a chef, so I thought, let's go into the Navy and get free training. So I went for the Navy, started that, ended up having to have surgery on my legs. And so I was like, I'll just do a little cafe and bar course to fill in some time while I was recovering. And loved it and never looked back. And here I am today. And yeah, I love it.
I think that that's an amazing story, because many stories that we hear at Go With Tourism through our education program that we have in secondary schools is the way that it is, and I mean it in the nicest way when I say it, but secondary school students seem to dumb it down because of the perception back behind it of what it is at school. And the truth of the matter, look at you. First of all, well done on getting free education, but now it's taken you to do what you've done. So I say hands off. Queenie, obviously you and I go back, for those that don't know, many years. Queenie actually was one of the first people to work on Go With Tourism when it actually used to be called the Tourism Skills Campaign, and actually was one of my first hires at Go With Tourism. Queenie, what brought you into the tourism industry?
Yeah, similar story actually. Tourism wasn't actually a pathway for me. That I didn't know I was going to end up in tourism. It was heavily influenced by my geography teacher in high school. So at that time, it was kind of like tourism paper. It was perceived as like, an extra paper to do. You don't have to do much to get credit. So it started from there. I was interested in people tourism, and I didn't know the vast, so many sectors and areas included in tourism. So the perception of frontline workers was there on top of my mind. So I was like, I really like that, dealing with people frontline. When I entered with my first job at ISA Information Center, which I really enjoyed, I think that was like a key foundation of my tourism career, I should say, and where I am now. So that was really good. I was lucky enough to get a mentor advisor out of uni. I was studying tourism, and let me tell you, it was nothing. What I studied was nothing compared to practice in the real world. So it was so much theory. At that time, transferring your education to the real world industry was kind of disconnected in a way. I only just started learning about tourism when I entered the workforce from ISI Information Center, dealing with different people, making bookings for overseas travels, domestic travelers. So for me, it started the real career path for me started there. And then I entered Auckland Tourism. I found out more jobs in tourism within the headquarters of Auckland Tourism, relationship management, trade marketing, consumer marketing. Yeah, so it was really cool. That's a blab about me.
I know, but now look where you've ended up. I think that's one of the crazy things, because your path is crazy.
It was crazy. It was sidelines kind of way. And then and then we started the Go With Tourism initiative, and I was lucky enough to work with Matt. I was one of the first hires. Let's do something. We need to do something with education and tourism, connecting it with the industry. And that was a really good learning for me as well, just to understand helping young people, especially I'm a real advocate for our Pacific and Māori students and young people. I'm just trying to get them to understand what the opportunities are in the tourism industry. And that was my passion in that role at Go With Tourism, just getting them into the door to experience the whole world of tourism. And then recently, obviously in New Zealand, I was there in the regional and tourism team, just trying to connect overseas travelers to New Zealand as a preferred destination, and obviously in New Zealand as a preferred airline. So that was a really cool learning. I'm continuously learning about tourism, and obviously here at Parkable, transport is a massive sector in tourism in a different way. but transferable skills from what I've learned in tourism is totally relevant now. And I'm still learning.
Tourism and hospitality is all about creating memorable moments. So I just want to ask each of you, what was one of the best experiences you've ever had being in tourism? Jason, coming to you first.
Trends 2019. We're at Rotorua and we had the after function. And I remember going on the Skyline Luge, and we're luging to a private oyster and champagne bar where there was a band playing halfway down. And I was just like, if this is tourism, so this is 3 weeks into my job. Third week, and I was at Trends, and I was drinking champagne, sipping oysters, and then luging. And I was just like, this is cool.
Can I just say, I love
really
that
cool
event as well. I spill champagne all over myself, luging ground.
So we're promoting drinking and driving, but only on a luge. So, you're not going to lose your license.
Just one drink.
Only on a luge.
Just one.
Only on a luge. Amanda, what about for you?
Oh, there's so many. I think one that really comes to mind, I'm very fortunate to be working for a company that travels the world. And a lot of my job currently is looking after the health and safety of teams. And so we have a team in South America, and had to head over there and go through all our sort of safety management plan stuff with the crew. But my boss was with me at the time, and he knew that I hadn't been to Machu Picchu. So one day where I thought I was going in to teach everyone about operational safety plans, he gave me a train ticket and was like, bye, off you go to Machu Picchu. And so jumped on the train up and just like hiking around this amazing place for the day when I thought I was going to be doing more health and safety. So that was super rad. Yeah, real awesome day.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah, highlight.
Yeah, I'm so jealous.
Queenie, what about you?
Good memory.
With the so many roles I have had like super exciting memories. But I think one that comes to mind is really close to my heart was when we did the Go with Tourism presentation to one of the schools. And I remember this moment where I was helping you present the initiative. And afterwards, there was a question Q&A session afterwards. And I think there were 2 or 3 young Pacifica Māori ladies that came up to me and were so interested. I think they were even inspired by seeing a face that was like theirs, that was brown, like seeing a person that looked like them, look at them, oh, cool, this is what's going on in tourism. I really want to learn. So we spent most 20 good minutes talking about opportunities in tourism, and that was really satisfaction feeling, because we made a difference, sort of thing. We definitely
in that case, you made a difference. You made a difference in that case, which is great. I think that's one of the amazing things. And I think, one of my favorite moments that I ever had was I had an opportunity to work on a private jet, and I got to travel the world for 9 months. And when I mean travel the world for 9 months, from a little boy from Invercargill, I never thought I would have found myself in the places that I found myself in. But getting to do it in a private jet, even better. But obviously the opportunities are out there. But what can you tell us about the opportunities available and skills gained in tourism that can help people progress their career? How has it helped you personally? Amanda, coming to you, because I kind of felt like you were going there before with that awesome opportunity.
This is a huge question, Matt. I think that if you enjoy people, you've got to enjoy people, and you've got to enjoy challenges and helping people along the way. And if you've got that, then it can lead you into so many different pathways, and you sort of just go with the flow, right? It's just like traveling down the river, and you go wherever the pathway takes you. But I guess I started in hotels, and I remember having a chat. It was like at a dinner party, kind of like a Tupperware party, but for dinner stuff. Oh, how adult. And I was talking to this lady who I'd met through one of my friends, and she was telling me about her job. And at the time I was HR in quite a big corporate area, which wasn't really me. I'm a farm girl, come from the wops. And she was telling me about this HR role that she has, but was just so awesome. And that was with Active Adventures, looking after guides, helping people travel the world. You're literally getting paid to take people hiking. How amazing. And so I was like, oh, how do I get your job? And she was like, I'll become a guide. And I was thinking, oh, I can't go be a guide. I've been working on my career, this career thing that we always go towards. I can't be a guide because it's a bit of a, backward step. And she was like, well, do it. You'll love it. And I did. It was the best couple of years I've ever had, ever. Getting paid, as I say, to walk in the outdoors. And then she obviously, during this chat, knew that I would eventually want one of her jobs. She ended up out on maternity leave, and I just stepped into that role, and here I am today. And so I guess it's one of those things that if you've got an open mind about where you want to go and what you want to do, then this is literally a pathway into anything and everything within such a fun, awesome industry with super cool people.
I think the world's your oyster, to be completely honest with you. And that's such a generic term, but you look at tourism and you can go from front line all the way to the top. I use the example of Matt Wong, right? So he moved to Queenstown 20 years ago. He was raising kiwis at the BirdLife Park when he moved there, and then moved into eyesight, moved up through the ranks, moved into management, worked for an outbound travel agency, Ngāi Tourism, ran a helicopter company, and now he owns his own tourism operation. And that's an opportunity that exists for absolutely anyone. It just comes down to having the right attitude. The opportunities are there. You've just got to have the balls to grab them, to be really blunt, right? You look at like what you can learn. Amanda said it really well. If you're in tourism, it's about the people, right? People. You learn a lot of soft skills. You learn mental toughness. You learn how to be resilient. You also learn how to fail. And I think that is super important, particularly in my role. So I'm sales and marketing, and I teach one of our education programs. I've been in this role coming up 3 years, and the amount of times I've failed is just ridiculous. But from that failure and learning to accept that, I've succeeded. And I think that's one of the coolest things, is that tourism really teaches you how to just accept it, but become stronger, more resilient, and better an employee and eventually an employer in the long run. Man. It teaches you what you need to do to just succeed in any career, regardless of whether you're in tourism or not. It's a good foundation, and it's a great endpoint. It's no matter where you start or stop.
I agree. There's something within that when you say you've got to go against the grain and also fail, first attempt in learning. And you've got to do that 100 times. Amanda, I know you were just about to say something. I'm really interested to see what you were about to say there.
I guess the other thing within tourism as well is you can actually go from entry level to being top dog pretty fast if you really want to be there. If you're proving that you're keen, that you're interested, and you engage in industry and with people that will get you there, you can move forward fast compared to other industries.
I remember hosting a STEM education talk where we talk about tourism and business with a high school. We had a group of students in Dunedin, and I had one kid that you could tell was the class clown. He was a bit of a bad egg and didn't really pay attention. And he was just like, how do I become a body flight instructor? How do I get your job? And he asked the question, and then he started talking to his mates and wasn't looking and wasn't engaging. And so I waited for the room to go silent, and I started talking, and I was like, it's about your attitude. And he wasn't listening. And I said, which you've got a bad one, so you'll never succeed in this industry. And he finally snapped and looked at me, and I said, I'm glad I finally got your attention. But that's the blunt reality of it. No matter what position you're going for, or what skill or background you have, if you've got the right attitude, somebody in this industry will give you the opportunity. And if you've got the right attitude, you will grow and you will move up really fast and you will be successful. It's attitude over everything, I reckon.
I think on the topic of students or people who could be concerned that tourism isn't a stable career right now, particularly after the impact of COVID, what's your message to them to keep going, Jason?
I think it is stable. I think the notion that there's no future in tourism is a cheap shot and an easy way out. I'll use iFly as a really good example. So the first lockdown hit us in year 2 as a business, right? We flew over 21,000 people last year. We created more opportunity, we employed more people, we became a household name. And it was thanks to COVID and the lockdown that that opportunity actually arose. People always say, oh, long term, do you think it's going to last? And I think COVID's changed the world, absolutely. And all that means is that as a business and the role of tourism, we just have to adapt and change with it. And what Kuini was saying before with technology and everything like that, it just means that we need to focus on what's going to be in the future, 5 years from now, The opportunities there, tourism's always going to be here. From an economic standpoint, it's one of the biggest contributors to the national GDP, so it's never going to disappear. It's just going through a rough time. But I think, the saying is never waste a good crisis, right? And I think those that are going to succeed in tourism are those that have really hustled. And I want to avoid using the word pivoted. So I'm going to say adapted to the current market. But again, touching on the future, going forward, I think it's never been a better time to get into the industry. I'm still pretty new to it myself. Tourism was a subject I did in high school, but it was an extra credit. It got me university entrance, and I had 13 people in my class, and I didn't know anything about it. It wasn't pushed, and I never considered tourism as a career. But I look at it now, and I look at sort of my position and where I came from to where I am now and where I can go forward. Tourism's got so many opportunities, which is just ridiculous. And so someone coming out of high school or coming out of any kind of tertiary study right now, there are so many doors in front of them. And I think there's even more so now because people are starting to realize, crap, we have to adapt, we have to change, and we have to work hard. And so if you're the right person, if you've got the right attitude, the future's there, man.
Yeah, I agree. And look, if you look at this last recent lockdown, we've seen not a lot of people laid off in tourism and hospitality. Yep. Actually, if anything, they've been retained. And it's estimated now that we need 80,000 people in the next 5 years in our industry. So it is the best time to get in there. And look, the one message I will say is you may start off in an entry-level role. I remember my first role was, in a supermarket for $6.72. And then it moved on. It's okay to start off somewhere. But as Amanda was saying, before that, you can move so fast in this industry. Amanda, I'm interested to hear what are your thoughts on the future and maybe a message to young people or mature people who are looking at entering into our industry.
Yeah, I think despite everything, there is so much positivity in tourism. People have an inquisitive need for travel and for adventure, and that will never change. So it is an industry, despite a few obstacles at the moment, it will come back bigger, better, and stronger. And I think as an industry, we are super resilient, and you have to change. You have to change to the needs of the environment, to the needs of your clientele. And so I think as an industry, it's built on that already. So the foundation is there for this forward planning to ensure that there's something there for people to enjoy at any given stage. And I think, as Jason was saying, companies that are, again, despite the word pivot, it's a great word to describe it, even though we sort of loathe it, don't we? I think that if you pivot and you're moving forwards, whatever way that might be, and just constantly trying new things, changing and adapting to your surroundings, then you're going to succeed. And for example, Active Adventures, we have been running tours for 25 years, but we never really marketed to the domestic, New Zealanders within New Zealand. And that's something that we've definitely tapped into since the borders have been closed off. We've just acquired a big company in the US, so there's domestic travel there as well. So if you're prepared to change and keep, your DNA and your ethos with whatever you do, then there's opportunity out there. And so it's an exciting time. Like, we're hiring, we will continue to hire going forward as we, get bigger, better and stronger.
Good thing. And Queenie, what about your message? A message to maybe Māori and Pacifica who are looking at entering. Should they do it, and why should they do it?
Yes, they totally should do it. Keep going, because tourism is an amazing and resilient industry. So I would encourage all Pacifica, young Pacifica and Māori people to just go for it, enter the tourism industry whenever they can, whatever opportunity, just stick it in, because it is an amazing industry and resilient in its own way. Like Amanda and Jason were saying, we're resilient in our own way, using this opportunity with lockdown to communicate with our customers differently, using technology as a way of communicating instead of meeting in person, like, our traditional channels like meeting in person. Like, for example, as well, like transport is a massive part of tourism, because transport is a part of tourism. And if you enter as well as a customer care, like where I started with Parkable, customer care handling all the inquiries. So looking for ways to connect with your customers, in startups like Parkable, there's also like entry jobs there that creating opportunity, technology opportunities. Go for it. Just keep going, because tourism will be different, bigger, stronger, and more awesome with more awesome people. Hello, we've started with awesome people. It's going to be amazing with the best people at the end.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we may have gone through hardships in the recent year, but I promise you we are coming back bigger and better. We are looking at different ways to reinvent ourselves. We are looking at different ways to do things. I believe that what the team has said about being resilient, we are people, as Jason said. That is what we require. That is what we need. We need 80,000 of them in the next 5 years. So if you are considering a career in tourism or hospitality, now is the time. And check out our Go With Tourism website if you do want to see more. Well, look, let's end the show now. Thank you, team, for joining us today. But what I want to do to finish on today is by introducing you to 3 heroes who kicked off our Refreshed campaign.
I love the tourism industry because I found as soon as I started I could be myself, be bubbly. You get encouraged to talk as much as you want. My name is Alice Orr. My job responsibilities are reservations, sales, photography, and currently training to be a backup driver in the jet boat, which requires 25 hours of training. When I was just 14 years old, I was lucky enough to have a casual job here at Hoka Falls Jet. I quickly fell in love with the tourism industry. I left to Queenstown to study adventure tourism management at Queenstown Resort College. It's a special industry because no matter what, you're making people happy. So I would love to own and operate my own tourism company one day. If you're considering a job in tourism, do it. It's awesome. My favourite thing would be working with cool, like-minded people, doing cool stuff in cool places.
Skiing's my thing. My name is Andy Hoyle and I am the General Manager of Safety and Environmental Risk at Ruapehu Alpine Lifts. Ruapehu is like no other mountain I've seen. It's hugely challenging, and I can say in my 21 years here, never been a dull moment, not even a dull second. I knew I wanted to be in the ski industry, but had to work my way through it and started originally as a garbage man. And then I've moved into ski patrol and then progressed through to the role now. Many people have gone on from Ruapehu Alpine Lifts to really amazing things, from climbing Everest to you name it. It's an awesome training ground. My advice to someone considering is just do it. Just get involved, get up here, meet the people, see the place, get some experience, work out what part of the job you want to progress into. And remember, banking experience, doing whatever, it all helps build that experience for whatever you might do in the future. Just get involved, do it.
My favorite thing about my job is the fact that I don't dread going to work. I look forward to meeting whoever's going to get on the tour and spending a good day with them, and really at the end of the day I'm just sitting around having a yarn. My name's Lewis Bensman and I own and operate Queenstown Beer Tours. I design the website, I do the marketing, I clean the van, I take the tours and I pay the bills. So I'm a one-man band. I started working at AJ Hackett Bungee years ago. I still had the ambition of being my own boss and a bit of a passion for craft beer and meeting people. All of those things put together led me to doing this, as well as 3 or 4 breweries opening up here in the last 3 years. For running a business, you probably need skills far better than I have, but you need to be able to learn and want to learn and adapt. Someone who's looking to get into the tourism industry, have an open mind and also want to have a lot of fun while you're at work. That's very important.